Today's episode is brought to you by Wicked Escapes. Based in Boston, Wicked Escapes is renowned for producing some of the most immersive interactive adventure attractions in the world. Their Saugus, Mass location showcases the best puzzle and escape room adventures in New England and is located just 10 minutes north of Boston, conveniently on Route 1 in the Roll the World Plaza. Book today and find out what all the excitement's about. Enjoy their spacious location, experience the thrill of solving their mind-bending challenges, maybe even set a new Wicked Escapes time record. Sign up at wickedescapes.net. That's www.wickedescapes.net.
All right, folks, we are here live in Blue Vase Studios. I am super excited for my next guest. You know, I always tell people that I'm excited, and I really am excited. My next guest is a little special. He's got a very, very unique thing going on in his life. He has a very unique background, and what he's doing right now is, well, the reason why I'm excited about it is because he's changing people's lives. For those of you who don't really know my background, I grew up in a pretty difficult situation, surrounded by crime, drugs, and violence. My mother is HIV positive. My stepfather died of AIDS. One of my brothers died of an overdose. One of my other brothers was in rehab. Another brother did time for distribution. So I grew up around kind of this drug epidemic that we're seeing today. My next guest, his name is Matt Ganem. He is an author of a book called The Shadow of an Addict. He's also the executive director of a treatment center called the Banyan Treatment Center. He's a poet. He's really doing a lot of things. His story is amazing, and I'm inspired by his story, and I hope you're going to be inspired as well. Matt, thanks for being my guest.
Hey, thank you. More than honored to be here, man. It's a beautiful day out there.
So obviously you're from Boston, so we're here in Beverly, Massachusetts. We know each other from my brother Ryan and your sister, and again, I think your story is amazing. I've seen some of the things that you've done, and tell us a little bit about your background and kind of what got you to where you're at today.
So, I've been very blessed to be in recovery for the last 10 years. I was an IV heroin user. Started doing drugs at a young age. Grew up in a troubled time in my house with, my father leaving my mother. And, what I resorted to for self-medication was drugs.
Right.
I bounced around to different schools. I went through 4 different high schools. And, the easiest way for me to get close with people was, like, find the group that did drugs or that drank every weekend.
Right.
And those are the type of people that I fit in. And even from, like, a younger age, in 6th grade was, like, the first time I did anything. And I was walking home from school, and a buddy of mine stole a pack of cigarettes from his mother, and one by one he handed everybody a cigarette.
Right.
And then each person lit it up, and we all sat on the corner coughing like we were cool kids. And that was my MO moving forward.
That's how it started, with a cigarette.
Yeah, it was a cigarette. And it's funny because nobody ever talks about, like, a cigarette being the gateway. And
right.
You hear all this stuff about marijuana being the gateway. Well, the next thing was alcohol.
Right.
Because, alcohol, you see these commercials. Go watch the Super Bowl, and it's half-naked women drinking. It's,
right.
A beach party on a bus going by. So when you see your family, when you see people having a good time drinking, it's like, oh, well, I want to try that stuff.
Right.
And that was the next step. And slowly but surely, the progression went through, from cigarettes, alcohol, to weed,
right.
to ecstasy, to Special K, to acid, and then I was introduced to OxyContin. And, OxyContin, when it was originally made, it was made for hospice patients on their way out of life.
Right.
So you
cancer,
gotta think the
cancer,
people
right?
with severe pain as a way to ease into death. Like,
right.
That's what they were made for.
Right.
When you get, and there's a time release on it for 12 hours of pain relief.
Sure.
You give a healthy 16-year-old athlete an OC80 where we take the time release off and use it, it's synthetic heroin in a pill.
Right.
And at the time when I started using it, again, I was put in a situation where I had friends around me. And that whole, that feeling to be a part of. And like,
right.
When I did drugs, it took me out of who I was as a person. It took away, like, the depression I was facing, the insecurities. It made me feel like I fit in with people. I had the courage to go hit on, like, the hot girl. And that's that first time I did OxyContin, it was like, I found, like, the love of my life. And
So when you mentioned you're an athlete when you were younger,
mm-hmm.
and so when you take something like that takes away the pain, does that also like truly physiologically take away the pain? In other words, you're an athlete, you're getting hurt or whatever. Do you not feel injuries? Are you able to perform better? There
was I actually made the Boston Herald jammed on 80s. I threw a shutout, two shutouts in a week, and I did an 80 before each game. And
really?
I had, like, arm pain and arm trouble, but again, I wasn't prescribed it. So
sure.
And I talk about the the beginning of OCs is like a background, so people understand like exactly what it was for.
Right.
Though I didn't take it prescribed, I took it in like, a friend of mine, he used to get them because he had a family member that had cancer.
Right.
So he had like an endless supply of them.
Right.
And that's how I got introduced when I first started using, is he would bring them to parties and like, instead of doing ecstasy or some of these other drugs, because at that point drinking wasn't really my thing. I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
Every time I drank, I ended up hugging the toilet.
Right.
At that
Right.
point. So when I was introduced to OCs, somebody was like, "Oh, it's just like taking a few perks." Now I'd been prescribed perks for injuries before,
Sure.
for minor injuries or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, it's just like taking a few perks." But then when you do it, you get hit with this like pure euphoria. It's
Right.
like, just everything feels great, and it's like a few hours of like pure bliss.
And then what happens when it goes away?
In the beginning, nothing. In the beginning, so when you take ecstasy, right?
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning and it feels like you got a hole in your head. When
Yeah.
you take acid, it feels like you got a hole in your back.
Right.
Right? There's all these, alcohol, you have a hangover.
Right.
There's all these consequences when you start taking drugs. When you first start taking painkillers, I didn't feel a hangover. I didn't feel anything the next morning. I felt fine.
Right.
But eventually you develop a tolerance.
Right.
And then you become physically addicted, so you withdraw when it's not in your system. So when I started taking it, it was a Friday, Saturday thing where like it'd be a Friday night. We get, a couple of us would buy one. We'd get high for the day in the night or whatever.
Right.
And slowly but surely it went from Fridays and Saturdays to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to we got nothing to do on Monday. Let's split a pill to
Right.
the entire week. And that whole thing of trying to fit in, at that point, I had been kicked out of my mother's house because I was such a classy guy. I was on the verge of getting kicked out of my third high school. Again, classy guy,
Right.
lashing out, very angry way back when. And my junior year, I had college scholarship offers for baseball. And I was invited to, like, pro showcases. I used to throw low 90s, had a pretty good curveball and a changeup, and had some talent.
Right.
And I didn't even end up playing my senior year because I was more focused on getting high and getting banged up.
Did people know then? Did your coaches know? Did your parents know?
They just thought I was they just thought I caused trouble. They didn't
Right.
realize like the significance. They didn't see it as serious as it was.
So I'm going to stop you there for a second because a lot of people that are watching, I've, obviously we talked a little bit about my background, and, I think a lot of parents out there, and, I didn't even mention that my, lost some other family members as well. As someone that is in recovery now, I'm going to ask you a bunch of different questions, but the first thing is what should someone who is a parent right now be looking for in their 16-year-old, 15-year-old, 14-year-old daughter or son? What are the telltale signs, especially, again, I know you're the executive director of Banyan Treatment Center. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But what should someone right away be noticing?
Change in behavior.
Okay.
I was an athlete, but I started getting disengaged with some of the kids that were on the team. And
Right.
Baseball and basketball didn't have the same appeal to me once I started using. I was more worried about going out partying than practicing and trying
Right.
to work on my skill. The people that you surround yourself with.
Sure.
And that's a life thing. That no matter who you are who you surround yourself with.
Right.
So if you hang around with 10 people that are using drugs,
Right.
you're the 11th person. Just like if you're hanging around with 10 successful people, you're
Right.
going to be the 11th. I'm sure, being
someone literally just said that to me today. That exact same thing.
Man like yourself
Right.
understands that if you
Right.
hang around bums, like
Right.
you're not going to get anywhere. If you're not surrounding yourself with people who are successful that are going to push you to be a better person, like
Right.
you're not going to get anywhere in life. Same thing as a kid who's 15, 16 years old. If they go from hanging out with baseball players or football players or like, whatever club after school to hanging out with people that are like openly using drugs, like
Right.
I'm sorry to say, but like 10 out of 10 times your kid's going to be using drugs.
Now, so all right, we know that. So the parents should be looking for a shift in their behavior. What do you do as a parent?
You try to intervene. You try to open up communication. One of the things that I try to push nowadays, because I do a lot of speaking in like schools, middle schools, high schools,
Right.
is try to engage your kids in conversation. And
Right.
not like judgmental, you're grounded, I'm going to take away everything, but try to like open an honest line of communication so your kid's always going to come to you when like a situation arises or like to build that trust.
Right.
One of the things, it's a tough situation to wait that long. I try to push parents to talk to their kids at like 12 years old,
Just talk to them.
Talk to them
About anything.
And it's not about heroin. It's not about shooting heroin. It's about cigarettes, alcohol, weed. It's about situations that you're going to be put in. Do you have the courage to walk away? Unfortunately, when I was a kid, I was a follower.
Right.
And, you know, I wish I had the courage to step away from those situations and not, you know, take that first cigarette, take that drink, take that drug. If I had the courage to step away way back then, like, my life would be completely different.
Sure.
And unfortunately, I tried to follow, like, the circle that I was with, or as I got older, I started getting, or what I thought was cooler with, like, older kids who kind of used me as a guinea pig to do, you know, like, when I was in high school, I had sold drugs. I kind of followed what they did.
Right.
And, you know, they kind of sent me off as, like, you know, oh, we'll hang out with you, but they were using me as a guinea pig to, like, make them money and, you know, supply kids I went to school with, and then also feed them my own habit.
Let's talk about rehabilitation. You know, I don't think I said in the introduction, my father was addicted to coke as well, and you know, family. And I've seen people come in and out of detoxes and rehabs. I think they're two different things. Tell me about the differences between the two. But the other thing, the end question I really wanted is, for you, what made you stop? But first, let's go back to what's the difference between a detox and a rehab? And
detox is specifically to get the chemicals out of your body.
Okay.
That's all it's for.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people out there think that detox is like the be-all, end-all, cure-all.
Right.
But just imagine that detox is 5 to 7 days.
Right.
You got people that use drugs for 10 years. You think 5 to 7 days is going to cure 10 years of trauma, drug abuse, depression, you know, everything that goes along with being a drug addict? It doesn't get cured in 5 to 7 days.
Right. I think that's important to say. A lot of people think
it's
that.
It's acute withdrawals. Like, that's to have medical attention around you while you have acute withdrawals.
Right.
So, like, if you're detoxing off benzos and you don't do it in a medical setting and you don't have any help with it, you might kick into a seizure. Like, those are deadly withdrawals. Like, they can kill you. Same thing with alcohol. If you're not medically having oversight on your condition to make sure comfort meds, you know, DTs, like, everything needs to, you know, to be in a medical setting. Having that attention, it's just for acute withdrawals.
Right.
Like, that's all detox is. Now, rehab is where you're trying to work on the underlying causes. Right. A lot of people think you remove the drugs, everything is fine. Well, the drugs are a byproduct of somebody who's addicted. Like, it's how you self-medicate. It's how you cover up your flaws, or, like, you numb yourself from feeling, from all the things that you go through. There's not, you know, and this is my opinion, this isn't fact. So please don't take it as fact. But 99% of addicts have underlying causes: depression, anxiety, bipolar, past trauma, PTSD, sexual assault, there's so many other factors that go into why somebody uses drugs, and the drugs is just what we self-medicate to try to cover up all that pain. So now you remove the drugs and you remove the one thing that we all cope with. Like, that's how we cope with life. If you want to look at alcohol, for example, you celebrate with alcohol, right? You win the championship, everybody pops a beer back. Somebody dies. Oh, we all go at the bar after, right? That ends up becoming everything revolved around that. With drugs, like, anything that happens, you go to use. Like, you know, somebody dies. That's how we grieve. We go shoot heroin, we sniff coke. You know,
same thing, going out to party, same thing.
We come up with money, and it's like, oh, well, you know how we celebrate getting money? It's like, oh, let's go get high. You know, you fight with your family. Somebody crosses you on the highway and cuts you off. I'm gonna go get high. Like, we find every excuse to go use. That's how we cope with life. You remove the drug, now you're in rehab, and you're trying to figure out how to live your life, how to work through some of your problems without resorting back to the drug. And that's what rehab is. It's to build a foundation for you to stand on. It's to work on some of these underlying issues that you have, whether it be depression, anxiety, insecurities. It's to build your self-worth. And that's how, you know, you get, you know, 30-day residential rehabs as a way to try to, like, build you back up.
So again, you're the executive director of Banyan Treatment Center. Where is it? It's
in Wilmington, Mass.
Is it open? Is it open yet?
It's open.
It's open. Congratulations! I know you've been working on it for a long time.
I've been busting my ass. You know, I've been very fortunate in life. So I can go into, like, all the.
Well, I wanted to ask you when you mentioned the time frame. So your
time frame is crazy.
30. So you have 30. I've heard 30 days, 60 days, 90. I've heard of rehabilitation centers for a year. Is it? Is it on an individual basis, or tell me specifically about what you're doing at Banyan?
The longer you stay in treatment,
Yep.
the better chance of success that you have. Like that's
Sure.
just the one statistic that I believe in. Right now at Banyan, we're in the very infancy of it.
Right.
We're in our 4th week
Yeah.
that we've been open. We're doing well.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think 10 years ago I was an IV homeless heroin addict, and
That is crazy to think.
2.5 years ago, I was working for my father.
Yeah.
Doing construction, doing poetry on the side.
Right.
And I can make the direct correlation of these little words that I write on a piece of paper that open the doors to a treatment center in Massachusetts.
Right.
Which is, something that blows me away, that a little talent, a little hobby, something that I found solace in that's helped me in life, ended up, giving me the platform and the backing to get this to Massachusetts. 18 months ago, I took a job with Banyan Treatment Center.
Yeah.
I sat down a couple months before I actually took, I think a month before I actually took the offer, I sat down with the owner. He paid me to come down and speak to his program. It was, it was a new program. A buddy of mine out of Chicago got hired. The Tim Ryan out in Chicago, the day he got hired, he told me that they were going to pick me up, and that this that's just transpired was going to be the offer that was on the table. I sat down with the owner. Now, Banyan Treatment Center is private insurance, and working for a program out of Florida for treatment, what I did was I helped people get down there for treatment.
Sure.
And I represent the brand. I go to different places to speak, whatever the case may be. But when I sat down with the owner, I said, it's great sending people to Florida. You get them out of their circumstances. You get them away from the same people, places, and things.
Right.
You give them that chance to get better, which is great. What are you going to do in Massachusetts?
Right.
Because Massachusetts is where I'm from. It's where I got clean. I went through public programs up here, and I'm very, very blessed that, I had those places at the time that I was at the bottom. And he had pitched this idea of partnering up with a program in Massachusetts that he would basically invest in me,
right,
to open the doors. And
that's a pretty big leap.
For 10 years ago, you go back and I was an IV heroin user on trial, on the verge of doing state time. Where at that point, my father, my mother, my sister, I didn't talk to anybody.
Right.
I burned every bridge around me till I was on an island. And I hit rock bottom.
Right.
And that was 10 years ago, and here I am in this fancy position with a fancy title, partnering in a treatment center in Massachusetts that, myself, my clinical director, Joseph Papa, that we basically built from scratch.
Right.
And to bring it after starting, I started working with the company 18 months ago, to progress from being a outreach coordinator, regional outreach coordinator, into an executive director and partner in a program in Massachusetts, where I'm a heroin addict. I'm a 31-year-old recovering heroin addict with no education.
It's amazing. In a minute, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you a little bit about your book, called The Shadow of the Addict. I want to talk a little bit about your poetry, which is awesome. Folks, again, we are here with Matthew Ganem. He is just an amazing guy. Again, you just heard him talk a little bit about his story. 10 years ago, he was an IV heroin user. Now he's the executive director of a treatment center that is helping people. He's helping people. He's a published author. He's a poet. And it's really... it really makes me feel good to see someone like him, because so many people hit rock bottom and they stay there and they end up in one of two places, right? Death or in prison. He's a testament to show you that you can come back from whatever it is. Again, he was truly rock bottom, had nothing, was homeless, facing time. And now, like he said, he's the executive director. He's got a fancy title, he called it, but he's also, he's doing stuff and he's helping people's lives. Tell us, again, you can find him. You're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook.
Twitter, Facebook, yep.
Yeah, what's your Instagram again? It's Matt Ganem.
Matt Ganem _poet.
Yep.
Twitter's the same thing, Matt Ganem _poet.
Yeah.
On Facebook, I got a writer's page, Matt Ganem the poet.
Right, and again, your book is called The Shadow of an Addict. You can find it on Amazon. I think it's on Barnes & Noble. I think it's pretty much everywhere. Tell us about your poetry, because I've seen some of your stuff, and I think the way you do it, I don't know. I think it's spoken word. I think maybe they call it. It's pretty awesome. How did you get into that?
I've been writing poetry since I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah, since I was a young kid. Obviously, I wasn't writing about drug addiction.
Right.
When I was.
It's powerful stuff, though, man.
Yeah. Well, I can't write a sentence, and I don't know what a noun is, and I like the way I express myself.
Right.
Writing poetry, I like the wordplay, the alternate meaning of, I could write a piece. For instance, I'll write a piece that to somebody who's never used drugs, it's about a girl But then, somebody who's been down the path, the metaphor is that heroin is the female.
Right.
My biggest metaphor is Oxycontin was my high school sweetheart. Heroin was my one true love.
Right.
And in middle school, I started writing. And I started writing, like, little love notes to girls.
Right.
And as it progressed, like, at a younger age for the writing, I just enjoyed it. Like, anytime there'd be a poetry thing in class, I'd probably write the poems for half the class
Right.
that I was in. And it was just a way to express myself. And
how did you get into the how did you get into the spoken word part of it? Yeah, because that's awesome. I've seen you do it live, and it's awesome.
So, I wrote a little bit when I was getting high, when I was shooting dope. I didn't write. I didn't do much of anything besides, lie, cheat, steal, and manipulate, and get high.
Right.
When I got clean, I was in a halfway house with 26 guys on their way to prison, on their way out of prison. And I was 21 years old, and I weighed about 140 pounds. And I didn't have the capacity to open up to the 6'5", jacked monster that just did 10 years in jail and be like, buddy, I'm having an emotional day. Can I talk to you about it? Right. So what I did is in the house, I started writing poetry again. Like, I rediscovered, something that I'd done as a child.
Right.
And it was a way for me to, like, filter through my feelings, the shame, the guilt, the hopelessness. And, slowly but surely, I started building this, like, catalog of poetry pieces. Like, I got notebooks. I still have notebooks from when I was in the halfway house. I have notebooks from when I was in detox.
Right.
Which is crazy because I can look back 14 years ago and sit there and see the struggle of, like, an OC addict who didn't think he was an addict, who I have criminal charges, I'm lying, I'm cheating, I'm stealing, and yet I'm pointing the finger at the heroin addict like, oh, I'll never be that guy, so I'm not a heroin addict.
Right.
I'll be good. It just got out of hand. And I can read it because, like, the way I write is I just pour it from the heart, and it just comes out with whatever the circumstances are. Over the time, I built this catalog, and I'm reading to friends, and, like, it's really private. It wasn't really out there. And in 2011, my buddy Iggy, he came to me, and he's like, hey, would you ever think about shooting a video for one of your poems?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, like, I like that idea.
Right.
So for the next few months, we went on, like, a spree of filming, like, poetic videos on YouTube. And I still never performed, still never spoke in public about it. We just, I got, like, a poetic narrative, a 20-minute short film that we did with a bunch of my friends, $20 in duct tape.
Right.
And, I'm blessed to have these videos because there's friends of mine that have died that are in them.
Right.
And I have these, like, memories that are, like, caught on camera, and, like, we have a blooper reel from one of them, and it's like, it's a beautiful thing to involve people that you're with. So from those videos, I got my first radio interview from a guy in Florida, and it was an over-the-phone interview, and I was nervous. I remember I was walking around a driveway, my friend Sherry's driveway, talking to them, like, thinking I was, like, this big-time dude because I got a radio interview 5 years ago. From that, I ended up getting a publishing company that reached out to me, and they offered me a contract. And part of the contract was that I had to go publicly speak and I had to publicly perform.
Right.
So I started hitting open mics because I'm a person that likes to prepare for things.
Sure.
And, like, if I'm going to this public place in front of 50 people, 100 people, whatever the case is, I want to be good at what I do.
Right.
Like, I'm very, I will work hard to be good
Well, that's
at
one of the
something.
key elements to success is preparing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, so I started going to these open mics, and I'm saying I was reading through I had a piece of paper in front of my face, and I was reading through the paper into the microphone for a crowd of 5 people. Right? That's how I got started.
Right.
So I started doing that. Then I had at one of the
Can I
events,
stop you there for a second? I just want people to understand and appreciate what you just said. Is that's how almost every successful person in pretty much any profession starts. You're in front of a room with 5 people. I did stand-up comedy for a little while. I literally did it it was just my girlfriend in the crowd. So I want people to understand that
people only see success
yes.
and think, oh, I want that.
Right.
But they don't have any idea what it goes just to be successful. And
right.
I'm trying to bring everything together with, like, the struggle of the poetry that brought to the treatment center, because without my failures and successes as a performer, as a poet, as going in front of 5 people with a piece of paper blocking my face because I was scared to look into people's eyes in the crowd, right? I worked on my craft, and I busted my ass so I started at these open mics, and I started telling people, oh, I got this book coming out. From that radio interview, I got a spot that was supposed to be on CNN. He did a TV interview with CNN before. They asked him to do another one walking through the pill mills in Florida. So he had agreed to it, and they asked him if he wanted intro music. He said, nah, I want a poem from a kid from Boston So I go into the studio, I record this poem, I get this fax that I have to fill out all this stuff for CNN where they own the rights to everything that gets said on that audio, and I can't use it without their permission anymore. Fax it back over to them and everything. So now I'm going around these open mics that were stemmed from this publishing company's contract saying I need to go out and do public speaking. So now I'm at open mics that the crowd's getting bigger. I'm starting to I had a kid come up to me and said, "You got real powerful words. But you need to lose the paper because you look like an idiot." So I went from there to start memorizing pieces. Walking around job sites I was on because I was doing construction at the time. And at night I would go to open mics when I didn't have my son. So now I'm performing for larger crowds a little bit. Now I'm telling people, oh, I got a book coming out. I got CNN's going to play an audio clip in. Neither one of that happened. Neither one of that happened. So 9 months after signing the contract, I had gotten, oh, we're looking for the right editor. Oh, we're looking for this. Oh, we're not doing that. Oh, this. And every excuse in the book, and I was so defeated. Because at this point, I'm starting to get noticed. And then I put a collection, a separate collection called The Shadow of an Addict together. Because of the CNN interview. So as the business mind comes in, it's like, I'm going to be on CNN. My voice will be national. Maybe somebody will Google me. I need to have something. So a buddy of mine, Jason, who runs J-Rock Publishing Company.
So the key part, I don't want to cut you off again. The key part there too, I think people need to understand is that you felt like you were like you're getting there, you're climbing, you're gonna hit this big deal. I hear people. In fact, I was just on a podcast with a guy earlier who had a record deal that fell apart, and so you're there and you're like, man, this is it.
And then it fell apart. You down 15, 20 feet back.
Now I also ask you too, as a recovering addict at the time.
It's hard.
So when that happens, are you like? Do you think about maybe using again? Do you think about, or is it?
At times you feel like that, but one of the things that getting clean taught me is that I can overcome anything. And it's a mentality that like I've been to hell. Like I know what hell feels like. I can describe it to you, and I made it back. So these things are things that are obstacles in my path. Now at that point in time, like you either fold or you push forward. Not saying it doesn't hurt, or there wasn't moments I wanted to just give it up. It hurts when, I had this dream that I was going to be in bookstores everywhere, and I was going to, be rich off this book. And then on CNN, but now the insecurity kicked back on where, when I was getting high, I got high with a girl that used to say she did a duet with Celine Dion. And we were smoking crack in a project hallway in Somerville. Like, you did not sing a duet with Celine Dion. I hate to break it to you. Like, you're high right now. Are
you sure?
I'm positive, 100% sure that she did not do a duet. I also shot dope with a kid in an abandoned building in Cambridge who swore to God he was signed to Eminem's record label. Swore to God. I don't think he could rhyme 3 words together. But every time he's like, I got to get in the studio. I got to do this. I got to do that, But I felt like I was one of them. Going to these open mics and saying, oh, I got this book deal coming out. Carried by Wings of Protection. I got CNN's going to play something.
So you felt like you were telling people something that wasn't true.
That wasn't going to happen, right? So the insecurities come up, And at this point, like, things weren't going too good for me because, I wasn't making good money in my day job. I was out till 1:30 in the morning every night because I would do a poetry event and I would go to a hip-hop event. Whether it was to host, network, whatever, like, it wasn't just the performing aspect to build your brand, to build your name, to build your following. People need to see you. And
not making money doing it.
And not making a single cent spending money to get into these places. And, there was a time I was sitting on my best friend's couch. And, me and him had did some he was the biggest supporter and the biggest person to push me to be a better person. And, I was broken, and I was just like, this is worthless. Like, my father kind of told me that poetry was pointless. Like, why are you doing this? You're wasting your time. Like, all these other people were like when you tell somebody you're a poet, they don't, in my crowd of people that I hang around with, they had, some lovely words to say about that.
Well, they forget how Jay-Z was a poet.
Well, they don't consider that. And
Ice Cube was a poet.
Yeah, so I took a lot of flack as I was trying to get this going, and I didn't ask for support from anybody. I just went out and did, and hoping people followed me. And I sat on his couch, and this is a kid I've easily worked on the most pieces with. I used to walk around his house performing it and like, hey, is it, did you like this piece? And he's like, nah, it sucks, get better. But he would be front row at every open mic, front row at every award I ever got. And I had put out an ebook, The Shadow of an Addict, in an ebook.
Right.
But even that, I was like, well, it's not going to take off or anything. And he ended up he loaned me a couple $1,000s to publish The Shadow of an Addict.
The physical book,
the physical
right.
copies. And, he believed in me and he pushed me. And from that point, like, it gave me faith that, I ended up selling 3,000 copies out of my trunk with no help and nobody supporting me.
I remember you telling me that before.
And me buying, and it's even more at this point, but I would go buy 500 copies. I paid him back plus $1,000 for lending me the money. But I literally would drive to meet people.
Right.
And one of that, being an artist and being somebody that has developed a following, like, that was some of the best times because I got to meet people that followed, because I post a lot of my writing on social media.
Right.
So I have right now I got like 8,000 something people that follow me, which
right.
is like incredible that they like the words that I rhyme together.
And they're true, they're real people.
They're
too.
people, they're not, they're humans.
Right,
they're like,
right.
But like going out selling these books, I got to meet people that have been following me, and it's like they know me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they know my story. They know my ups and downs. Like, I write about the highs of performing in front of 1,000 people.
Right.
I write about the lows of choking in front of 30.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I write about my love life. Or
the honesty is
the
what
honesty
people love.
is what people like about me. And, I got to have first person interaction with, like, people that, like, believe in me.
Right.
And that pushed me even more. And now, around 2013, I started getting awards. That I started traveling a little bit. Colleges started paying me to come in and speak.
Right.
And this is 2 years of, like, not a cent being made, spending my own money, traveling. Literally, I would work 10 hours and then be out for 6 more hours and then sleep for 4.
Right.
And get out there again and do it all over.
What gave you the drive to continue to do that?
People.
Yeah.
Every time I wanted to quit, somebody would send me a message like, I read your stuff and I don't want to get high.
Right.
I read your stuff and I emphasize with my kid more because I write in first person.
Right.
So people don't understand, like, we don't want to keep using. And there's a lot of struggle that goes into it, whether it's the circumstances, whether, like, I hate feeling. Like,
right.
One of the reasons I got high is I wanted to be numb. Like, I feel too much. I love too much. I hate too much. And it's hard to get a grip on your emotions when they're so extreme.
Right.
And what drugs did for me was it leveled me out, and I didn't feel the love, or I didn't feel the hate, or I didn't feel, the extremes that I when I'm not using that I feel. And so people, like, every time, even to this day, like, anytime I feel down, like, I swear to God that somebody reaches out to me. Like, when I'm feeling low and stressed, I get a message saying, you saved my life. Not that is me. I'm not taking claim or credit.
Right.
But, like,
but that's what gets you going.
I read, or you got me a detox right now, or, like, I read your poetry and it helps me get through. Like, that would always give me the motivation to keep pushing. And in 2013 I had a great year. I won New England Urban Music Awards 2013 Male Spoken Word Artist of the Year. I won the Mass Poetry Awards Poetry Book of the Year. I featured on the New Eurekan Cafe stage in New York City. Which
you also won an award, too, for helping people with addiction, right? What was that one? What was that?
I won 2015 Recovery Advocate of the Year.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And that, so, everything happens for a reason in this field. You got to take failure.
Well, I wouldn't even look at it as failure. I think you would agree. It's the struggle.
It's absolutely. But I'm talking because I know you're successful.
Right.
I know how many, a lot of business-minded people are going to listen into you because they see your success and they want to emulate that. And one thing I try to tell people, because people see a highlight reel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They only see the highlight reel.
Yeah.
They don't know that, in front of 400 people, I've choked.
Right.
And it happens. And I get up the next day and go right back out there and perform yet again.
Right.
Like,
and that isn't easy. That isn't easy no matter how many times it happens.
No matter how many times I've screwed up. Like, it is very hard getting back up.
Right.
But, like, the book deal that fell through, the CNN thing that never panned out, right? All the open mics. I used to hit open mics every single night, and then I started getting paid to speak and to perform. And
right.
Like, all the struggle, all the sacrifices led to, so now 2013 I'm winning awards.
Right.
2014 I get a job offer from a childhood friend who's starting a business in treatment for Wicked Sober, and he offers me a job opportunity to go do now poetry in the poetry scene was wide ranged.
Right.
I used to resent that people call me a recovery poet, even though I talked about recovery.
Right.
I'm a writer. I can write about love. I can write about religion, money, men, females, life, kids. Like
Right.
I consider myself a writer, and I used to resent that people would corner me to like the recovery poet. So I never tried to embrace it. And then 2014, a good friend of mine came back from Florida. He went to treatment in Florida and offered me a job to work at Wicked Sober, where I could take the speaking thing, kind of like go to different programs and speak, and then also help addicts, which I've been doing the entire time that people call me. I've always helped them with connections to sober houses,
Sure.
detoxes, but now I got a job doing that.
Right.
And, in that period in time, I learned the business of treatment, of private treatment. And
that turned into essentially this, right?
And
Banyan
that
Treatment
turned into
Center,
a
right?
job offer from
Yeah.
Banyan. So now you go back to the poetry networking, right? Networking at poetry events.
Right.
I've done some network marketing that, pyramid scheme, whatever.
Right.
But another failed attempt at
Yeah,
business. But
sure.
I learned something
Yeah,
from it. I picked different things up in every aspect of my life
Right.
that led me to this marketing job with Florida House.
Right.
And then in working with Wicked Sober. And I was very good at what I did. And that's when Banyan came in the picture, and it was like a very new program. They had 30-something people in their whole entire treatment center.
Right.
And, what's crazy is, there was an explosion when myself and Tim Ryan came on, where we went from like 30 in PHP and IOP to now we have 80.
What's that? PHP, IOP?
Partial hospitalization. They're in groups for 5 days, and they live off-site from the center.
Okay.
So they just get bused back and forth to the residents instead of being residential,
Oh, okay.
which would mean
Right.
the groups and counseling and the housing's on the same campus. So they had 30 total clients when we first started working. And now they have 80 clients in PHP alone. They've expanded from just the main facility in Pompano Beach to Chicago, to Boston, to Stewart, Florida with a detox and a res.
Wow.
And a lot of people in the facility credit that to Tim Ryan and myself.
Right.
On how the company was able to start taking their model and moving it to different parts of the country.
Can I ask you, I want to go back to,
Mm-hmm.
the actual, your personal story as far as
Yeah.
the addiction part of it,
Yep.
because again, because even my background, I know that some people that are watching are interested. So you're 10 years sober,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it something that you have to work at every single day?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you do? What's your day like? I mean, do you have to remind yourself every day, or is it?
I just there's certain things that I do every day that help me stay grounded.
Right.
Writing has been one of my biggest therapeutic tools.
Right.
I write all the time, not just about addiction, about whatever I'm going through.
Right.
If I'm having struggles with my kids, with my kid's mother, with
Right. You have 2 kids, right?
2 kids.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
With my love life,
Right.
with business, with chasing a dream. Like I write a lot.
Okay.
Giving back and helping others
Right.
is something that it warms the soul. And if you help people without expecting anything in return, like just do it for the sake of doing it.
Right.
And there's a lot of things that I do I'm not gonna go putting on air because
Right.
that would defeat the purpose of like trying to help somebody who's hurting.
Right.
Because I don't ever forget what it felt like to be broken and alone and not having a cent to my name, food for my stomach, anything.
Right.
And I won't forget that. And I see people on a daily basis that are there. The people that I'm helping in treatment are in similar situations like that. So constantly trying to help others is a way to feed the soul.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And one of the things that I live by is you do good by people, people will do good by you.
Right.
So, one of the things that I try to do is just, give back.
Sure.
And be a voice. Like the poetry has given me a huge platform. And, from poetry, I got the job in treatment. From that job in treatment, I worked it out where I opened up a treatment center in the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And every failure, every success, every triumph, every award, like all led into like 4 weeks ago, I took my first 3 clients all on the same day. And like I helped, put the house together. I built the bureaus. Like I set up the furniture. Like I did the yard.
Right.
I cleaned the thing. I got the office together. I mapped out the blueprint. I helped pick the staff out. Like.
Right.
And you're talking about somebody who has no education, no background, no history on it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's from where everything. Well, folks, we've been talking to Matthew Ganem. He's an amazing guy. He's an author. He's a poet. We didn't talk too much about. He's a father. He's the director of an organization or a treatment center called the Banyan Treatment Center here in Massachusetts, also in Florida as well. His book again is called The Shadow of an Addict. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Barnes and Noble. He's also available. He's also on Instagram, Twitter. Are you on Snapchat? You should get on Snapchat. You got to get on Snapchat. He's on also on Facebook.
Social media is tough.
You know, it is.
So
you got
many of it, and it's distracting.
You got to stay on top of it. So we're running out of time, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. I'm gonna see if I can do this. Can you leave us with a poem?
Absolutely.
That is powerful for people who are maybe struggling right now and looking for a way out.
Yeah. I'm the surface of a sleepless ocean. The cold depths of frozen emotion. I'm a piece of a heart broken, floating inside a love that was stolen. I'm written poetry spoken. I'm a fresh page with a mind full of things to say, reminiscing on yesterday's best days to get the stress away. Even if I'm depressed today, I'm that feeling inside. When you look your lover in the eyes that no other person alive could provide. I'm the sun setting on a crimson sky. I'm trapped inside these speakers, turning naysayers into believers. When the poem gets deeper, I'm the teacher, abusing the fact that I have the platform to reach you. I'm lost in the wind. A breeze that will never come across you again. Brought up in Boston the problems coming up from the bottom where rising is the only option. I'm the beautiful ugly, a recovering junkie, making barely enough money to keep a roof over me and my son that loves me, and I refuse to let him go hungry because my past has come back to crush me. I'm that first breath of freedom. Breathe in the 1,000 reasons, leaving a cell block of demons screaming freedom like you just left work for the weekend. Only the work week lasted for 5 years. Borrowed time will make you see clear as you watch your youth disappear. You learn the truth when you're in there. Only your true friends will be there when you breathe free air. I'm the rebirth of Pac Poe and Shakespeare. I'm the rose that grew from concrete, the thump beneath the street where Romeo and Juliet would meet. I'm the madness created from the telltale heartbeat. I'm Achilles at war, but my pen is my sword. Using the allure of everything I went through before as a metaphor that you don't have to struggle anymore. I'm that morning light. After making it through a night that might have taken your life when there was nothing but darkness in sight, but you found the strength to fight, because the sun shines bright once you believe everything will be alright. I'm the last words that a poet writes. I'm the skies telling the story of my past that remind me of what I'll see when I'm looking back. Similes didn't have an impact on half of that, so I literally mapped out the path from where I was at. I'm chaos finest serenity, the point beyond infinity, taking what's given to me so I can build from within my city. I even pray for my enemies, because once upon a time they were a friend to me. Regardless if they see it differently, I'm trying to make history. I'm a legend. Or so I've been told by my friends that made it to heaven. As a penman, I'm the extension of their resurrection. Redemption. For anyone abusing prescription medicine whose progression led them to heroin, let that settle in. I'm the voice of a generation, raising my voice to the nation. Inspiration for every addict getting high in a basement, a kid trying to get clean as a detox patient, that they can say, I am one of the ones that made it. I'm hope for those that lost it, still carrying pieces of broken dreams in their pocket. Who think happiness is found in material objects? I'm street knowledge. I'm passion, pleasure, and pain. I'm lightning, thunder, and rain. And what my mother made on the first day of May, I'm a heroin addict that changed, but couldn't wash away the stains that covered my veins. I'm Matthew Ganem, and you will remember the name.
Dude, that was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you, man.
No problem, brother.
Folks, we've been on with Matthew Ganem. I don't know what to say. I got chills. I've seen you before, but I wasn't this close. He's an amazing guy. You can Google him. It's Matthew Ganem. You can find his book, The Shadow of an Addict. He's also the director of Banyan Treatment Center. Folks, if you're looking for a way out, if you're looking for somebody that's been through it and is continuing to help people, he knows what you've gone through or what you're going through, and if you have a loved one as well that is really looking for a way out, find this guy. He's on Instagram, he's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, and again, it's Banyan Treatment Center right here in Massachusetts. Matt, that was awesome. I hope you come out with another book.
I have
soon.
Another book written. I don't want to sell it.
All right, you gotta put it up. You gotta put it up.
Publish it for that.
All right, man. Again, my name is Michael Alden. This has been a special edition of the Alden Report, folks, and it's probably one of my most favorite because of what Matt's doing. Matt, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Man. Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time.
Today's episode is brought to you by Wicked Escapes. Based in Boston, Wicked Escapes is renowned for producing some of the most immersive interactive adventure attractions in the world. Their Saugus, Mass location showcases the best puzzle and escape room adventures in New England and is located just 10 minutes north of Boston, conveniently on Route 1 in the Roller World Plaza. Book today and find out what all the excitement's about. Enjoy their spacious location, experience the thrill of solving their mind-bending challenges, maybe even set a new Wicked Escapes time record. Sign up at wickedescapes.net. That's www.wickedescapes.net.